Hello, human peoples. You're listening to the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. To support us and gain access to great exclusive podcasts like Fox Mulder is a Maniac, Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Star Trek The Next Futurama, and our latest show, Spiel Boys, head over to patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. We do game streaming, movie nights with our patrons every Friday night, and you can even commission your own podcast about anything you want. Literally anything, within reason, and we have to do it. You are quite frankly out of excuses not to go visit patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds. I wish we could get the score, the opening score for this movie, and play that as our theme.
Yeah. Like I said, it's like a Ducks Hills level, right? It was just like,
it's like this weird disco camp. It's like really leaning into, hey, we're in the 80s. So it's like, but it's still got that like the back half of the 70s stink on it. So
it really does.
It's like, it's so not the tone of this movie.
It's not at all.
It's so funny.
But they knew at this point, they're like, it's fun. We're having fun.
I think so, yeah. I think
not enough fun. Like, that's my critique.
Right. It's not enough. This movie is still pretty hardcore. Like, Jason doesn't really get fun until part 6. I mean,
he really doesn't.
The movies are still fun. I'm rambling. We should start the show, Dave.
This is the show.
That's true.
This is a new episode of MASKHOLES that will come out on Friday the 13th of October.
What? No.
Spooky.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. And honestly, no better film for this. So before we get started, of course, I got to thank Chris Shanovich, our producer.
Yes.
Thank you so much. It is, surprising that it took this long to do a Friday the 13th podcast.
Yeah, it is kind of weird.
Yeah.
We should have gotten this a long time ago. But thank you for holding the gun to our head, or I guess the machete to our head.
The machete, yeah. And no better Friday the 13th for this Friday the 13th when this comes out than Friday the 13th Part 3. And I say that because this is, you could argue, the first one that really became Friday the 13th. And what I mean by that is this is the first one where it's Jason in the hockey mask, which was apparently the work of two people. I forget their names, but it was one
of the producers and effects designers had a hockey mask in his bag. They were filming in Canada.
One of them had the hockey mask, and it was apparently too small, so they made a larger one. And when they made the larger one, the prop designer, production designer, added the triangles. So that's why I'm saying it's two people. Like, it was one person who was like, hey, what about this hockey mask director? And he was like, that's cool. And then the second one was like, I'm going to make it look like this specifically. And that, of course, became the hockey mask.
I actually just watched this. When I was watching this earlier for notes, I went ahead and cruised through some of the special features. So what happened is the hockey mask that they had in the bag, the original one that they just kind of pulled out and said, hey, what about this? That's the one that Shelly wears in the movie.
Oh, okay.
But that one was too small for Jason's head. Yeah, so they had to make a different one. And it's really cool. They made it. It's actually like, it's clear plastic. But what they did was they painted the other side of it. If that makes sense, if you can picture that. So it's the mask is actually clear plastic, but they painted the other side to make it look white. And then the little triangles on the front are like acrylic stickers or something he just glued on the front. That's how they made the one for Jason, yeah.
Nice and light. Yeah, I can see why the other one didn't fit his melon head.
What actually really surprised me was that the one that Shelly wears and like the actual off the rack mask is a leather mask that's made of leather.
Weird,
right? I did not expect that.
Yeah, that's freaky.
How was that supposed to protect your fucking face from a hockey puck?
I don't know, man.
It would just keep your teeth together. That's all it really does.
I mean, it
keeps all your blood together in one place.
It's one of those things where it's like we didn't realize some obvious shit.
Right, like the leather helmets in football.
Yeah. Where it's like, of course that's not going to work well. Jesus.
Oh, well, this isn't.
But I feel like we did that for way too long. Anywho, we are, this is Friday the 13th, Part 3, the 3D one, baby.
Yeah.
Because in the 80s, Part 3 had to be 3D. If people are unfamiliar with this show, you should go back and listen to the other ones.
Yeah, this can be your first one, but it doesn't need to be.
Yeah, for a lot of people, this is the first Friday the 13th. Again, this is the one where Jason becomes Jason.
Where he gets his mask.
We're going to go through the plot, then we're going to talk about specifically what Jason is doing during this movie, and then we're going to talk about the second best monsters, as in side characters or main characters who are totally fucking weird, and then we'll rank the deaths at the end. We'll go through the deaths, pick the best one, and of course when we get to the final episode, we'll pick the best one out of all of the films.
All the movies every Friday.
So yeah, this immediate 3D bullshit.
Yeah, it's great.
It reminds me of how movies today like do the thing where they stop for people to clap because Spider-Man shows up.
Right, or Harrison Ford is climbing out of the bathroom or something, tying his belt.
Yeah, it's a lot of people just shoving things at the camera, and you're just like, hey, watch it. Like, what are we doing here? The popcorn later is the one where I'm just like, that doesn't even look good in 3D, does it?
What it was the funniest thing is, again, I was going through some of the special features, and they were using like cutting edge 3D technology, a brand new camera, a brand new, not lens, but some sort of thing that they use for 3D that apparently they were saying in the features that I was watching is still being used currently, although those features were filmed in 2008, which is 15 years ago, so I don't know if that's still the case. But like, it was like a very technically complicated film to shoot. So like every single take took hours to set up just so they could set up this big goofy 3D camera. And then they had to do endless takes to make sure it came into the camera at exactly the right way, or else it wouldn't work, like it wouldn't show up as 3D. So this movie was like, for all of these shots of like rabbit ears from the antenna coming in there and like popcorn popping up at the camera, like all this stupid bullshit, like they had to work so hard to get it.
I would argue they never, like in retrospect, no need.
It was really unnecessary. It's really unnecessary.
Yeah, maybe they made some extra money, but like
apparently this was the most successful one until Freddy versus Jason.
Wow, that checks out. I mean, I get it.
Yep, it made $28 million in its opening weekend, and that's $28 million in 1982.
Yeah, we don't have to talk about the plot too much, but I'll say this one moves.
This one's pretty good, Dave. This has been one of my favorites for a while.
Yeah, Jason really starts murdering people, and there's a big body count. I'll reveal the body count now. I think it's 12 dead. I
think you're right. It's a lot. He is stacking bodies.
Yeah, they give him a lot to do, and it's we've talked about this before. Jason movies, they're like Hitman, where he has to be very stealth. So they give him a lot to do very fast. I thought it was smart because this is the one with, like we said, Shelly. This is the one where it's a girl who's bringing her friends to meet her 45-year-old boyfriend.
Yeah, her weird old boyfriend who's one of her dad's friends from work, I guess.
Yeah. He's 27. I looked it up. The actor is 27.
No,
I'm like,
no.
I don't believe that. Mm-mm. He looks so old. He looks like Don Draper in this. And he's there, and she's reliving her trauma. Lord knows why, but she's like, I'm going back to Higgins Haven.
Right. She's like,
her last name is Higgins, so it's like the family place.
Right. She's going back to the cabin for the first time in 2 years. We learned that 2 years ago, not at this point, but we learned eventually in the film, 2 years ago, she was attacked by a woods maniac. Yeah, who was Jason? Sure was. But she's just been carrying the trauma of this woods maniac attack. Yeah.
Do you think he recognized her? He was like, "Oh my God, it's you!"
I don't know. She does, because he pulls up his mask and she's like, "You!" And he.
I think that's why he pulls up his mask. He's like, "Look, remember me? I'm your."
Well, he's pulling the mask up to get the noose over his head,
right?
But maybe you kind of, because he doesn't really.
He has a smile on his face,
a little bit, yeah. As much as Jason can smile,
yeah. But yeah, and so she's here to relive the trauma, I guess, or to face it. And I'm like, why? I mean, I guess I get it. If you have a fucking lake house called Higgins Haven, it's like, I don't want to not have to like be able to go there. Like, that's a cool.
Yeah, that's also like sweet.
I never thought to like have a like name the place I live something cool like that. Like, that's such a cool thing to name your lake house. And I get it. Like,
I mean, it's a very rich thing to do, to name your house
right,
like
but
that.
I just realized we can all do.
I'm not going to name my house Monticello.
But you could. That's what I'm saying.
I guess I could.
My apartment could be Bell Manor, and it's like no one could stop me from calling it that.
No, you'd have to come up with something better though. It'd have to be like Howard's End.
Yeah, it's got to be good sounding for sure.
There you go, Bell's End.
Bell's End. Fuck it.
Fucking Bell End.
That's the thing. Higgins Haven. It's not that nice looking. Like I think it's a summer home.
It's so a little rundown.
They're
it
clearly,
needs some attention.
They clearly have money. Yeah. So yeah, they we're basically following this group as they go there. They get their usual warning, which we'll talk about, and then it's the same deal where everybody pairs off and fucks, and then Jason stealth kills them all until he can't stealth kill them anymore.
Which really isn't a problem for him. Honestly, he works fine. Well, yeah. I take that back. He works fine up to a very specific point.
Yeah. We have these bikers that show up who are maniacs.
I love the bikers so much.
Yeah. They are the first stealth kills, which works really well because no one knows they're there.
Right.
Shelly basically pisses off these bullies. They're just convenience store bullies.
Some more woods maniacs, essentially. Because they're bikers, sort of, but they're bikers in the middle of the woods. We'll talk about them.
Yeah. And then they go to light their barn on fire. We'll talk about it. And they are killed by Jason, and that's the first kills. And then, the rest, they are killed. And this girl essentially faces her fears. She's the final girl. Although, like every Friday the 13th up until this point, it ends with the same traumatic fake out, which is funny that they thought this was what we wanted. Like, this isn't a bad movie by any stretch. It's just funny looking back at the instincts they had, which they're like, we got to do the ending. And the ending is basically she escapes near a boat. It's always boat related. I guess in 2 it isn't, but she escapes, and then Jason runs out after she thinks he's dead because at this point he hung him and she stabbed him in the face. And then it turns out to be all a dream again. And the cops are just they're just like,
it's like
she's
2 dreams.
traumatized.
She gets like a dream within a dream. Remember, like she's dreaming that Jason is like running downstairs like she forgot something. Like he's like, your purse! But then she looks up and he's gone. And he's like, oh, that's weird. And like the door's still on the hinges and everything. So it's like, oh, he was never there. But then like zombie mom pops out of the wood, the swamp behind her and grabs her. And then she wakes up again.
Yeah. This is all to say, I feel like they haven't figured out how to end these yet.
That's interesting. I'm so glad I just watched a couple of these special features. There were 3 different endings to this movie.
Yeah. And we talked about number 2. They had that ending where the eyes opened on the mom and then they cut it.
Yeah.
So it's just like clearly someone's head. And it feels like they hadn't committed. They weren't confident in their endings. And it's really funny because all they have to do is what other horror movies would do, which is in the killer's eyes open. Like, that's all you actually have to do. They even end on this close-up of Jason left in the barn. Mm-hmm. For some reason, the cops didn't feel the need to cover his body or do anything.
Well, I like this. That's that part of it.
It's like they haven't found him yet.
Yeah. Even though they were just there, there were 2 squad cars there. I think I actually appreciate the restraint of that. It makes it better, I think. Where it's showing the body, where it's like you're so expecting it to open. Of course, the eyes are going to open, and then they don't.
You're right. Yeah, that is better. Like slasher films do, they knew they didn't need to do that to have a sequel. It was like, it'll come back.
Yeah. At this point, though, that's interesting you say that. This one of the original ending, the scripted ending, is that she just straight up cuts his head off.
Oh, cool.
But when they were and that ending was never filmed because when they were getting ready to film, apparently the producers were like, well, that's too definitive. We want to keep it open in case you want to make more of these. Exactly.
Fucking wrote around that shit.
I mean, they pulverized Jason's skull in the next movie, and he still comes back as a zombie in 6.
I guess at this point they still want him to be a guy, just a guy.
I think so. Yeah, they haven't figured out the gold mine of it doesn't fucking matter yet.
Yeah, again, it all goes back to they haven't quite figured out how to finish these movies, which is just very. I mean, they just figured out the math.
It's because they don't know what it is yet. They don't know what they have yet.
Yeah,
because he's not, like you said, he doesn't really become Jason until this movie. This is what makes him into like an icon. It's that mask. So like they don't. This isn't. These aren't Jason movies yet.
Right, they're not even sure. Like, I feel like they're not even sure if the next one will have Jason.
Yeah,
where they're like, we did the Jason arc. Now let's Is it going to be like Jason's sister, or is it going to be like one of the victims? Like it's kind of like Scream, where they're like, they think at first like, is this a whodunit or something? They really don't know what it's going to be.
Exactly, yeah. And one of the original pitches for this movie was to keep following the character at the end of the second movie, Jenny, I guess was her name, as she's in like a sanitarium, and then people in the sanitarium start getting murdered, and you're like, oh, is it her? Is it Jason? Is it somebody else? Which is interesting because they kind of do a version of that in part 5.
I was about to say they do that later.
Yeah.
And part 5 is a really good sign of you realize like they really didn't know what they were doing yet.
They were just trying stuff.
I feel like at the time I'd be pissed about part 5 because I was like, don't you get
People were.
Like it's Jason. We want Jason. Yeah, and they didn't realize that yet. Even in part 5, they're like, oh, I guess they want Jason. And it's like, no shit. Shit.
That was more, it's less of a, I think that was more of a Halloween part 3 thing. Like they had killed him off in 4. We're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves in terms of the franchise. Yeah. But they'd killed him off in 4, so they were trying something new in 5.
Right, and I get it. Again, it's that instinct of like, surely they don't want just the same thing over and over again.
They just want us to keep doing Jason.
Yeah,
and yes, that's exactly what we want.
That's what we want.
That's all we've ever wanted.
Right, because at this point, who gives a fuck for the sequels? It's like you're not going to reinvent anything.
No.
It's just like you might as well just do the same thing, and people will either love or they won't. You know, like I think about the Scream sequels where those I'm like, I think we're good. Like, I don't think we need any more, but they keep doing them over and over again. And I think we talked about this when we talked about Scream. What they desperately need is a zombie. Like, they need to make it supernatural, which is what this one figured out. They figured it out eventually. They were like, okay, like they want Jason, but under what conditions do they want Jason? Can he be a zombie? Oh, good, he can.
He can. He absolutely can. They totally bought it. All right.
Yeah, all right. That changes things. Can he be a phantom? Can he be possessing people? I guess he can.
He sure can.
Can he fight Freddy Krueger? Yep. Can he be in space? All right.
You betcha.
All right, he can be in space, yeah. Yeah, I guess we can just talk about...
He's the American Express of slashers, Dave. He's everywhere you want to be.
He really is. Speaking of which, should we talk about what he's up to in this movie?
We absolutely should talk about what he's doing. Yeah. Now, I want to start, even though it's in terms of...
Revealed later, yeah.
The chronological events of the film, this is revealed later, but we do get a pretty major flashback with Chris flashing back to when she was attacked by a woods maniac 2 years earlier. And it's Jason... but it's Jason before. It has to be before the events of part 2, right? Because this is like the day after part 2.
Yeah, the beauty of the timeline is the first like 3 movies.
Well, 4 movies. The first movie takes place like 5 years, or it's several years. I forget. We had it figured out at one point.
But the next 3 movies are like a weekend. It's like maybe a week of Jason's life.
It's not even. It's like each one of those is a day. So I think it's maybe 4 days. It's 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah,
and then he's just going on a rampage.
And then he cools off for a bit.
Yeah, like 10 years. Anyway.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, this one, you're right. I think he hadn't killed yet, and that would explain why he didn't. He tried to kill. Her memory is that she was attacked by a woods maniac, and then she woke up in her own bed, which means that Jason tried killing her and then didn't. And got scared?
Is that what it means? I don't know what it means. I'm fascinated by this. So she has an argument with her parents and runs outside and just stays out there. She's like, I'll show them. I'll stay out here, and then they'll be worried about me, and then they'll be sorry. And then she falls asleep underneath a tree, and she wakes up with Jason just shambling out of the woods. She's not at Crystal Lake. This is at Higgins Haven. This is at their... So Jason has wandered over here from his little piss shack in the woods.
Right.
And grabs her and just starts dragging her towards the woods. She says she blacks out and wakes up in her own bed, and her parents refuse to tell her what happened.
I have a theory.
I don't know do her parents know Jason? Do they know him?
So in the canon, they must. he must be that boy they heard about who, like Jason was always just like a nice neighbor because he doesn't care about them because they're not teenagers fucking, right? Where they're like, oh, there's Jason. He cut down our Christmas tree one year. You know, like that's how it feels.
He's like doing odd jobs and stuff. Maybe that's why his clothes were so nice.
Yeah. But here's what I think the movie at the time thought they were doing. So we keep having these hallucination endings. I think that they were dabbling with the idea of dream magic. I really do. Because I think that's
dream
magic. Like this idea that they keep having these hallucinations of being attacked. Remember?
Yeah.
And like the first one ends with her being like, he's still down there. You know? They kept doing this idea that Jason was appearing in people's fantasies or dreams. And that was going to mean something. And then I feel like for like Nightmare on Elm Street, they were just like, let's not do that. I don't know what it was. It just feels like this is that again, where they keep setting up like mystery boxes around Jason and dreaming, where she was like, I went to sleep and then I got attacked and I woke up in my bed. And so I think the idea is like, what if Jason is like a dream?
They're toying.
wizard?
They're toying with the supernatural, right?
Yeah, and that's what I mean is like they feel like they were setting up a mystery box that they didn't know the answer to here, but they're like, yeah, he seems to be like dream something or other.
I just
like he seems to exist and I don't know.
I just love the idea that he's just wandering around, I don't know, catching fireflies.
Well, that's the thing. Since they don't follow that up, that is canonically what this is, right? Because like we can guess all we want about what they thought they were doing. But what ultimately they did is told the story about a young girl who went out, fell asleep in the woods, was attacked by Jason, passed out, and then I guess Jason brought her home, put her in her bed, or
her parents came out and chased him off like raccoons in the garbage.
Yeah, and then they put her, and they're like, best not to tell her anything.
That's just not.
Happened.
That's no.
So like,
then we're gonna have
clearly,
to describe like what he looks like, and
I think this works for what I have in these notes of like what I think Jason's arc is, because I think this is about Jason getting his groove back, because so that's clearly a humiliation. He didn't kill that girl in the woods somehow, for whatever reason he didn't kill her, and that was before he learned how to kill. And then in Friday the 13th Part 2, he got his kill groove going, right? Mm-hmm. And then
he was on a revenge rampage.
Yeah, and then it went really wrong at the end, and he then. I think he's just kind of moping in this one. Like he keeps kind of just going into barns. Like the first kills of this married couple. And he wanders into their yard and he's not like trying to kill them. He's just wandering.
He's just kind of watching.
The clotheslines.
Kind of watching.
Yeah. And they
just
keep
like spying on him.
They keep seeing him like Bigfoot. Like he's always just walking away when someone looks up.
Yeah.
And once again, I think he's just fascinated about these two people because they live like him.
Well, I mean, they kind of do. They're also in like the middle of this weird argument. Like Harold's just a monster who's just eating food all through their store.
He can't stop. Yeah,
just drinking Sunny Delight out of the jug and putting it back on the shelf. Like he's eating fish flakes. He's a real Shrek. I called him a Shrek in the notes.
He is a Shrek.
And she's yelling at him for being such a fucking Shrek. Like a weird freak that's eating fish food and drinking like, Sunny Delight off the shelf.
What's going on with these? Like, they're fascinating.
Jason, he's just spying. He's a gossip. He's just spying on him.
Yeah. And then he sort of waits till they come out, and it feels like he doesn't quite attack until they come to him. And so it feels like he's like, I don't know. Do I even want to kill people anymore? Like that's the vibe I got from him. Is like he doesn't feel like he just lost his last murder spree.
Right. I feel like he kind of operates in this next string of movies like a wasp or like a crocodile or something. Like he moves into a new space. And
he's very territorial.
And then he secures the space. Yes, you're right. He's territorial. And then he gradually starts moving out in a wider radius, just clearing things out. And that's exactly what happens in this movie. Like he zeroes in on these people, because like you said, they live like him. Harold shits in a corrugated shack, just like he does.
Yeah, storage shack with a fire extinguisher. And I was like, what is this? What is this life? But we'll talk about them in the future. Yeah, so he's like fascinated, and then he seems lethargic, and then he's like, I guess I'll kill you, and he kills them, and then he goes back.
It's taken him a minute to like shake the shame off from the night before. He also got his collarbones split at the end of the last movie, so he's kind of walking with like a hitch in his back.
Yeah, I don't think he feels good at all.
No, he's not really feeling great.
No, how could he? And so yeah, he's just sort of. He's shaking off the cobwebs. That's all, and like,
so, yeah.
So he goes to Higgins Haven. I assume he just like saw them driving, and he was just like, all right, let's give this a shot.
Yeah, I think so. I had written a little bit more. Like, I think, like you said, he's getting his murder groove started in the last movie, right? So he discovers that he likes doing this weird haunted house shit to people. So now he's like also doing weird haunted house shit to these two people in their store for some reason, like creeping around and making noises and stuff. So it's like the next couple of movies are basically him just going on an epic several day bender because he just doesn't want to stop doing haunted house shit. And then so these sequels, like 2, 3, and 4, are him going on a raging bender and then dying at the end.
Yeah.
So he's like just like a rock star.
You're right. He also keeps almost dying. That's the thing. He keeps dying in quotations and then dying for real at the end.
Right. It's like watching The Doors.
Yeah. He keeps having these near misses where like his squirrel buddies are like, you're going too hard, man.
Yeah, you're flying too close to the sun, bro.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what happens. Is I think by the end of this, he's on a full on rager.
He is. Yeah.
But it ramps up, and so like he goes to Higgins Havens, and he also wanders around, like. There's a part later where he shakes the outhouse and then just walks away. He's just like,
Yeah, I guess
yeah. But he hangs out in the barn for a while until someone shows up.
That's his next base.
Yeah,
it's his next little base.
He's nesting. Yeah, he's nesting in this barn. And then these dirtbags show up, the bikers.
The bikers, I love them.
Yeah, and he's just like, all right. And the first one he kills with a pitchfork, and I think it's infinitely funny that the second one he also kills with a different pitchfork. Right, he had
two pitchforks.
Yeah, he's just like
he killed the first lady and sticks her up on the wall, and then he sees the other one. He's like, "There's a second one?
Yeah,
there's two. Right. They have two
pitchforks. This is fancy." And he stabs him with a pitchfork, and again, it's not very creative, but he's like.
Getting the job done.
He's getting into it, and he's proud, so he drops the body on the third guy and then jumps down like, hey, what's up? See what I did?
Gives him a good bash with something. I don't even know what he's holding.
I don't know what he's holding.
It looks kind of like a flashlight, but maybe
he's not in it to win it because, spoilers, that guy survives for now.
Right, somehow Ali is not dead, and he's just waiting in the closet for the rest of the movie to explode out of it later.
Apparently, yeah. He's like a real Jason. And then, this is where the guy takes a shit, and Jason just shakes the outhouse, and he walks out, and he just sees the end, like the end half of Jason going into the barn. So again, it's like he's not committing. He's just like
he wants people to come to his barn.
Yeah, he's like coming. Yeah,
he got 3 bikers immediately. He's like, oh, this is going real well. Now nobody's coming, so he's going and shaking the outhouse. Get out there, get into this barn. And so and they keep not coming in the barn. Oh,
yeah, he doesn't even kill these stoners. And he's like, no one's coming to the barn. And then he meets a muse. And that muse is named Shelly.
Right. The only person in the film who's a bigger creep than he is.
Yeah. And Shelly wanders into the barn, into his little trap, wearing a hockey mask. And he's found a friend in Shelly, I think. Yes, he does he kill Shelly? Absolutely. Of course he does. That's what he does to his friends.
Yeah, that's how he shows respect.
Yeah. But I think, like, also in part 2, he has that sack over his head. So I think part of him, he's just like, I look ridiculous. Like, he's so...
He's trying masks out. He's very self-conscious. He's trying gimmicks out. He hasn't found his groove yet.
And he finds this hockey mask, and it's the first time we see Jason come out. And he's like, I'm Jason now. I feel good. And I feel so good, I'm going to shoot this girl with a spear gun. Like, he's just... And it's a great shot. An amazing
shot. It really is. It's a crack shot. It's a spectacular shot.
And he puts down the spear gun, and I think it's because he's a little bummed, or because he's like, it's not going to get better than that with the spear gun. Like, I nailed it on the first try.
I think so.
And this is when he's like, I'm ready. He sees the light on.
He's kind of like testing vibes. He's like, all right, this is going. Yeah, he sees the light on. He's like, okay, it's time for more haunted house shit.
Yeah.
I've got my mask.
I'm
Let's
ready.
go inside.
He runs into Andy doing a handstand, and he was just like, well, that's a freebie right there.
Man.
I'm going to chop this motherfucker right in half.
Straight in half. And in the next 60 seconds, he has to very quickly hide both halves of Andy's body above the hammock in the rafters, and then hide underneath the hammock in a way that Debbie doesn't see him.
This is full Jason now. Like, this was him in the last film.
This is some peak Jason. Like, if you were doing the Jason highlight reel during his Hall of Fame induction, this would be a clip on it.
Oh, yeah. This is when he's out of his slump. He's like, I'm going to start hiding bodies. Like in the second one.
This is classic Jason.
And he has to get on the hammock to hide that body. There's no way.
Either that or he just threw them up there and just nailed it perfectly.
No idea how he got the blood to not show. And then he hides under the hammock awkwardly in a way that, like, this girl should be able to see all of this when she walks into the room.
Yeah.
It's very funny.
There's no way she couldn't have seen him unless he was, like, crumpled up until, like, squished himself up into a little ball and was like...
Yeah.
I don't know, trying to like strategically lay the blanket over the hammock so she doesn't see him, maybe.
Yeah, you'd think he like stood outside the hammock to look at the vantage first. I don't think he thought about any of that. He just crawled under there like
it's
a
just
little
instinct,
tarantula.
man. He's firing on instinct, bro.
Yeah, and that works. That goes so well for him. He stabs her through the hammock, and then he's like on a roll, and he is trusting his instincts because he goes downstairs to cut the power.
Right, and this is a big question about this. How does he know how to do that? Why does he know to do that? How does he understand that that's how that works? Was he sitting in his piss shack reading technical manuals?
There's no reason for him not to think a light bulb is wizard's magic.
Yes.
So it's pretty incredible that he figured this out.
It's like he was taking engineering, electrical classes.
Yeah.
Electrical engineering classes at DeVry or something.
Yeah, amazing instincts, Jason.
Yeah, how does he know to do that? Why does he know that? Because it's in a separate building, too. They have to walk to get to the fuse.
Right.
Why does he know that that's where it is?
I don't know. Maybe he thinks houses are living creatures and you have to, like, get into the basement to, like, kill it. I don't know. I don't know what's going through his head, but he successfully fucking, shuts off the power.
I suspect Jason's a lot more well-read than we expect.
I think you're right. I think
he's
he reads
reading
Technical
a lot.
Man.
He's reading everything.
Shutting off a power is easy, right? Like, he figures that out. He's just pulling switches until something happens.
That's
and
true.
In part 2, he shuts off a generator, right?
What if he did like a year as an apprentice electrician and we just don't know about it?
Oh my God, yes. I fully believe that Jason has existed, like, tried to exist in society briefly. He took a semester at community college.
He had a job and a family at one point.
Yeah, and then he was just like, not for me. None of this is for me.
In like Kentucky or something.
It really feels like he has enough intelligence in the world. Like later, he's going to later traverse a spaceship with no real problems. We'll get to that. He is confused by some things, but and then when he goes to the city, like he seems to have an okay time.
He does all right
in new environments. Yeah,
he does all right. Yeah, he kind of rolls with it. He adapts.
Yeah. So he starts burning through these kids. He's running around. He grabs the fire poker. He's hiding every body that he sees almost immediately. He just does his whole killing spree here, right? Like he just starts murdering all the kids while hiding their body in elaborate ways.
Yeah.
He sets up some traps.
He's really having fun with it. He's really home aloneing this lady.
Yeah. And then Rick and Chrissy show up. And he's like, oh boy. Like he doesn't even know these two are gonna be here, right?
He's setting this place up.
He's just hiding the body for whoever.
like he did in the barn. Like he's just getting the place staged because he fully expects, okay, this is a way bigger house than that last barn I was in. So many more people are gonna come here.
Yeah.
Like he's like a dude waiting for trick-or-treaters.
Yeah, they're gonna be so impressed by the stuff I create. Yeah, that later he hangs someone upside down. Like, it really is a series of traps that he's setting up, and he probably sets up one for every body for the most part. And he doesn't know which one's going to spring, so he just has them out. That lady in the closet, though, I have to think he just didn't get around to her yet. Like, he killed her. Right,
because she was like just down the hall, like 15 feet. He's like, oh, yeah, she can chill out in here for a second.
Yeah, he knows to hide the bodies at the very least until he can set them up in elaborate ways. And I appreciate that.
Yeah, he's on the ball there.
Yeah.
I do want to talk about the guy that is hung upside down that she runs into is clearly alive. Like, he's very obviously not dead.
Right.
There's this huge blustery storm outside, so there's all this wind. So he's bless this actor. He's doing everything he can to not blink, but you can see the struggle. Like, he's making facial expressions.
So you could argue that he was still alive.
Yeah, maybe.
And Jason is like, listen, just work with me here, buddy. We're gonna hang you upside down. It's gonna be great.
He's doing his best to play dead.
Yeah. And he's just waiting, and then he finds Rick, squeezes him, which we'll talk about.
Oh, man, that's so good.
And then he's like, what do I do with this body? Well,
I like that he's like holding Rick off to one side with his hand over his mouth while Rick is struggling, trying to warn her or call out for help. It's like a gothic mystery.
I know.
Like, he's like the murderer in an Agatha Christie story right there.
He's
an
so
Edgar Allan Poe tale.
Yeah. He's like, I wanna, he loves stealth. And now he knows, like, then he waits until she finds one of his bodies. So, because he knows, he's like, until I hear her screaming.
It's part of the thrill for him. It's the haunted house shit.
Yeah. And he's carrying Rick around at this point, and he hurls Rick straight through a window.
Yep.
And he's crumpled up like a little ball. It's so funny.
It's pretty great. It's pretty excellent. He heaps all sorts of punishment upon Rick.
I love how punished Rick gets. And it's so humiliating. His little dumb little body crumpled up. She runs from him, and this is where things go really wrong for him. It's basically a series of misfortunes. She throws books on him, which somehow hurts him. I feel like one of them, like a corner, got him right in the eye.
Yeah, you get a corner of like a real heavy hardback, man.
Yeah. Then he runs upstairs. She stabs him in the hand, and he goes like, ugh!
Like really badly. And then in the knee, really badly.
Yeah. And again, you hear him like, no!
It's deep.
Like, he's making noises.
Yeah, she you said misfortunes. She steadily fucks him up until the end of the picture.
She John Wicks him.
Yeah.
He runs outside and she hits him in the head with wood.
I laughed so hard at the wood. She nails him in the back of the skull with a block of wood, and he falls forward through a railing. He gets wrecked so hard.
I was waiting for him to be like, time out, time out, time out. Like, okay,
God.
we gotta stop. Like,
he falls through a railing, Dave, like a guy on a booze cruise.
Yes, it's like the movie You're Next at this point, where it's like, okay, apparently you can fight. We need to stop.
All right, yeah, we need to. Okay, we should. Can we truce? Call truce. Reconvene tomorrow.
Yeah, like he needs to give up. He needs to say like, okay,
he really
I'll
does.
go quietly.
Like it's. I wrote in the notes. Like at this point, it's his fault. Like he is. Yeah. Clearly outmatched, but he keeps pushing it until she kills him.
Yeah, and it takes so long for her to kill him.
Yeah, it does.
Like he just stay down, Jason. She gets in a van.
He gets a lot of chances.
He does one of the wildest things. She gets in a van and starts driving, so he stands in the road. And I'm like, you're not like her boyfriend, her ex-boyfriend. You're having a fight. Yeah. Like you're not.
If you want to get out of here, you're gonna have to hurt me.
Right, like he stands like she won't hit him, and at the very last minute he remembers what's happening, and he goes, "Oh shit!" and just jumps out of the way, and that is one of the funniest things he's ever done, because he seriously forgets that he's like, surely she won't hit me, and it's like you killed everyone, like you
killed everyone she knows.
Yeah. And it takes him just way too long to realize that. And it's so funny that not only does she beat him up, but she scares him in this moment. He's like, fuck, shit, and jumps. And then he just tries to choke her out in the van because he's just like, listen, I got to take every advantage I get here. She fucks him up in the car still.
She does.
It just keeps going
badly.
wrong.
She traps his arms in the window, and he has to headbutt his way free. It's the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened.
Right. And so this is like, it's such a sad arc because he's gotten his groove. He feels like he's finally figured it out. And then this one young lady just beats the fuck out of him because he's not done. So at this point, his eye hurts, his hand hurts, his leg hurts, the back of his head hurts. He is all fucked up. And then she runs to the barn and he's like, "That's my barn, damn it," I assume.
Yeah, that's probably what that's what the look on his face said to me.
Yeah, she goes to the barn and she falls on him like a fucking squirrel from a tree.
I had written down that like she could have stayed up there forever and he would have never been able to get her. Like she's up on this little beam up there that his big ass would never have fit on. It's like she was cheating playing the game, like cheating at the game. Like she had glitched through the environment to get on the roof of Packanack.
Yeah, exactly. And at this point, she's like, she knows she can take him, so she doesn't care to hide. Like, that's what it feels like. She hides long enough to beat him up. She runs up in the loft, waits with a shovel, and then hits him with a shovel.
Just right,
and then
bing, right off the top of his head.
Yeah.
It's so good. He crumples. It's not just like a stagger. It's so funny to see Jason get tossed around like this. He just crumples like he got shot. Like he took a shot right in the jaw. Like
I feel
it's
like
so funny.
He doesn't have this much trouble fighting Freddy. Like she is one of the most formidable opponents he has because she just keeps setting traps and just like pushing his dick in the dirt every time.
Yeah,
just fucking.
He's on tilt now.
Yeah, and so she slams him, and then she could just run. She could run. She could keep beating him with a shovel. But again, it's like she's a wrestler, a pro wrestler now. She wants to be hype. So she hangs him. She wraps a rope and dumps him off, and he just hangs there. And I'm really pretty sure at no point does he lose consciousness. I think he's just hanging there in shame, like thinking about what went wrong.
Right, yeah. He's really like trying to muster up the will to give it one more shot. Like, he got beaten so thoroughly.
Yeah. And then he gives it one more shot, and Ali comes out and beats him up, and then he gets axed in the head, and it's just like, it's so pathetic. It's just poor Jason.
It's the hanging. I just wanted to hit a little bit harder. It's so funny. Because
it is really funny.
It's like she just finishes him. Like she's been steadily beating his ass for like 10 minutes, like fucked him up, hit him over the head twice, stabbed him like really deep, like really bad knife wounds, just kicking his ass all over this barn, knocks him out with a shovel, and then lifts up his unconscious body to tie a noose around his neck and roll him out of the window. Like she executes him. She beats him until he couldn't stand and then executes him.
I think what makes it funny is normally this would be one beating in a movie, right? Of just someone beating someone up. But this is Elmer.
But it's
Elmer
drawn
Fudd
out.
style.
Like he keeps trying and keeps getting fucking stuffed.
It's like, Roadrunner, Wile E. Coyote, where he keeps going after her, and all he has to do is stop. Yeah. And she, every single time he encounters her, he never has the upper hand from here on till the end of the movie, till he dies. She just repeatedly beats him. It is so funny. Good for her. Good for her.
Good for her.
It's
honestly
weird that she's even traumatized at the end. She should just be like pissing on his corpse. Just like, yeah, motherfucker. Like there's no reason for her to feel in danger. Poor Jason. What a run. What a beautiful run.
Yeah. You know, it's his bender's off to a rough start, but he's gonna stick to it. We'll find.
Yeah. Should we talk about the second best monsters?
Yes, absolutely. I've been dying to get to this section.
Yeah. So we talked about Harold and how fucking nuts Harold is.
I fucking love Harold. What is Harold's life?
I don't know. But his wife is a knockout. Like they try to like ugly her up. Quotes,
they did
by putting her hair in rollers. And she's a model. She's clearly like a 22-year-old model.
Right. I was wondering if maybe this actress tried out for one of the other roles, like one of the bigger roles, like one of the main women at the cabin, and didn't get it, but they liked her still. It's like, well, you could be Harold's shrewish wife in the beginning. Right. We'll just put hair curlers in you in a weird bathrobe to try to disguise the fact you're clearly 25 years younger than this guy.
Yeah, and it's like, Harold, how did you get this life?
Harold's weirdly hot wife.
Yeah, she's like, so I was thinking of going to LA and becoming a model or living with Harold in his shack. And I just love Harold so much. I'm going to live here in his shack with his rabbit while he eats fish food.
The additional layer that's funny to me is that they didn't put any aging makeup. They didn't attempt to use any makeup to make her look older. So I don't know how old they want us to think she is. Because she's behaving she's like a shrewish old wife from a comedy sketch, right? Like she's behaving like she's like 52 years old.
Yeah, she looks like a young actress who's on an SNL sketch.
Yes,
and they don't have time to do makeup or anything.
Right,
so
she looks like Kate McKinnon in an old lady robe.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, Harold, your life is baffling. I want to know so much about Harold's life.
Well, here's something about Harold that I desperately need to understand. Mm-hmm. I never noticed this before. Have you noticed that Harold is quietly obsessed with trains?
No, I did not.
Okay, so outside there's a big "Watch out for the locomotive" sign near the clotheslines where all the clothes are hanging. He has a toy train in the fishbowl. He has train signage all over the shop. Photos of trains, like signs that look like railroad crossing signs. His fish are named Lionel and H&O, which are companies that make model train sets.
Incredible.
Like, he has a little card in front of the fishbowl that says "Meet Lionel and H&O." Those are model train sets.
That's like a set dresser who is just like, I'm going to do a little thing here.
And out in front, there's like a little train. Like, their phone booth is painted to look like a Lionel model train. Like, right. Harold loves trains.
It feels like one of those things where, like, the actors were like, what super method was like, I really want to know who my character is. I also think this is a product of older slashers used to do this all the time. They used to have like really interesting side characters who'd get murdered where you're like, what? So many layers. And like, there's no need to do that. And that's what that feels like here, where they're like, they gave them so much that it feels like a 2-person play that could exist.
Almost, yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, there's so many fucking weird layers where you're just like, you feel like you're losing your mind. When he goes to take a dump, it's a bathroom in a shack that has secret booze. There's a clock. There's a hose. There's a shower. It's a pantry. There's it's fire extinguisher. It's just like, I don't know what this room is supposed to be. I have no fucking idea.
It's his shit house and also the storage. They have an outhouse, right? So that's where the shower is too, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe that's just where the septic tank is. That doesn't make sense.
They're living in the 30s. Like, it's the weirdest fucking thing.
They're living like in the Tim Burton's Batman version of the 30s, where it's like there's some like modern stuff.
Yeah, they're living more like a maniac than Jason does. It's so...
Yeah, I think that's why it takes him so long to murder them. He's really taken aback by them.
They are probably the biggest maniacs, honestly, because there's just so many layers to who they are, and it's like, I don't understand your life at all. I don't understand how you like, if he was like an 80-year-old guy who lived alone, I would be like, okay, I get it. He's like a shack maniac. But the fact that he has this ridiculously hot wife is like, okay, well, that begs so many questions.
Yeah. He's obsessed with trains. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
He has rabbits.
Rabbits.
Okay. Yeah. He just eats everything. He just eats fistfuls of food of his own product and puts it back on the shelf.
Yeah.
He drinks room temperature Sunny Delight and puts it back on the shelf.
Yeah. He runs a terrible store.
He really does. He's a maniac. I wrote down, he's like Shrek. He's like train Shrek.
He really is. So yeah, he's a fucking maniac. His wife's a maniac. They would be the winner if it weren't for a certain someone, which we'll get to. Debbie, who's pregnant.
Debbie is the best friend of the main character, Chris, and the reveal that she is. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, she's going on this trip with everybody. Who is she? Andy's. She's
Andy's
partner.
girlfriend. She's Chris's best friend. The reveal that she's pregnant is one of the most shocking reveals in the entire franchise.
Yeah, they just drop it. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing on this trip?
Yeah.
Why are you on this trip? It feels like she's pregnant, but she doesn't. She's like, I could lose this baby. I don't care. Like, that's the feeling.
Either way, she really needs to think carefully about having Andy's children.
Yeah, Andy's
Like,
another
Andy's-
one where he's not a maniac. He's like a venture brother.
He's a
Like,
bit of a
he's
maniac, but you're right. He's more like Hanker Dean.
Yeah, he yo-yos in this and goes, "This is all the exercise I need." And I'm like, "What? What are you? What are you, you little?"
He walks on his hand. He juggles with Shelly. He's Shelly's roommate. I have a theory.
Yeah.
I think they went to clown college. I think they went to like circus school together or circus camp as kids, and then Shelly just never really aged beyond that summer.
Right.
But like the
Neither did
yo-yo,
Andy,
the
but I
juggling,
think
but like Andy's like aged enough, like he's like having sex and like being a teenager.
That's what it is.
Shelly's still trapped at like 9 years old.
Shelly is not a bad-looking guy. He has poor self-esteem, but I think that's what they want us to believe is that Andy got hot and so was able to get away with being a dipshit. But like he's exactly like Shelly. That's what we're learning.
Pretty much. He has the maturity to not be pulling juvenile pranks all weekend.
Yes, but he's the version of Shelly that gets laid, basically.
Yes, yeah.
So he still does all this circus bullshit. Like if he didn't get laid, him and Shelly would have shot up a school by now wearing like circus outfits.
Yeah, they'd be
Like they're clearly
they'd be the clown murderers, and that's how we would know.
yeah, they're clearly BFFs. But Andy is low
the unicycle murderers. This guy walked on his hands and
Yep.
shot Uzis with his feet.
Right, like Andy is troubling, but not in the cool way. He's like, oh, what a fucking nerd. What a little, like, you really want to bully him. Vera is not much of a maniac, if anything.
No,
she
she's like
could be more of a maniac.
She could be. She's actually like the nicest person I think in any Friday the 13th movie. She's one of the
Shelley's
kindest
blind
characters.
date.
Yeah.
Chrissy, who we established is kind of a maniac in that she is able to beat the shit out of fucking Jason.
She does. She really lays him out.
Yeah.
Like Jason really overestimated. He was really feeling himself too much when he called that shot.
She's fine. I'd say there's not much.
There's a couple of things I wrote down about her. The van has her name written on the door, on the driver's side door, because that's her door.
That's weird.
That's the door that she uses. Chris. I also want to
you're
talk
right.
about like by the end of this movie, she's like screaming and laughing maniacally in the back of a police cruiser as she's being driven away. Like
then she's a maniac.
she's like Iron Man by the end of it. She has PTSD on top of existing PTSD, and it was like the PTSD of being attacked by a woods maniac, and it's this big mystery because he dragged me off into the forest and I blacked out and I woke up at home. My parents won't tell me what happened. It's like a fucking young adult thriller. And then she has the PTSD of all of the events of this film. Like everybody she knows was horribly murdered. And then she's sitting in the back of the car and sees Jason's body in the barn and just starts freaking out because she doesn't believe he's dead and is doing like Daffy Duck madness.
She is
in the back of that car. And I love it. I don't think it puts her at the second best monster, but like I did want to say that I like that this Friday the 13th does this a lot, where it shows that like the people are fucking wrecked at the end of it.
Oh yeah.
Whereas like compared to like the end of like Scream, where they just kind of like say like
by the
quips.
third one, she's like, "I'm good," and it's like, "Are you though?
Are you? This is horrible things." So I appreciate that they take that. It's like you always talk about where like the kids aren't even scared of the dinosaurs in Jurassic World. It's just like a thing that it's a small detail that I think gets overlooked a lot.
Oh, it's great. In this one, they don't say cool quips. They're just saying gibberish. They're just screaming.
Yeah.
And they're just trying to kill. Yeah. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Rick, who is every Friday the 13th has the guy where you're like, well, you're too old.
There's two guys in this, because Chuck, too. Chuck, I don't know how old Chuck is. He looks like Martin Mull.
He does. Rick is got to be 50.
Rick is like 48 years old.
Yeah, and he's like the bad kind of maniac where he just feels aggressive and weird. You know, where you're like, he's like the too real version of the maniac. Like,
right, he's just a sex pest. The entire movie, he's just a sex pest.
He's like that guy in the last one that was also like this weird, quiet sex pest. He like hides in the house and jumps out at Chrissy when she gets there. And
I wrote down what he did. It's not just that he jumped. He jumps out, grabs her by the throat,
right,
and drags her to a wall to push her against it and forcefully kisses her.
Yeah, and I know why they do this in these movies. They want these fake out scares.
Right, they want to scare us, but like when you think of the context of this being a person doing this to another person, and it's like it's his girlfriend, and he doesn't know about the Woods Maniac, but he knows that she has some trauma and that it's like a difficult thing for her to come back here. And so he greets her by leaping out of the darkness and grabbing her by the throat.
He's an asshole. What an asshole.
And then when she pulls away from him, he says, "Is it my imagination or did it just get cold in here?" This is the first 4 seconds that we meet him.
Yeah. We're waiting for him to die.
Oh, you suck.
Yeah.
Then his car breaks down for no reason later. It just breaks.
Yeah.
Just so that it takes him forever to walk back to the house for everybody to get murdered.
He's like 50 and he's hanging out with kids because no one his age wants to hang out with him. He's one of those.
Right. He bought them all beer.
Yeah, of course. Chuck and Chili they're fine.
I love Chuck and Chili. They don't have any wants or interests beyond getting high and eating popcorn, and I respect the hell out of that.
Oh, yeah, but they had a horrible death because they're so high. They're like, is this real? Like,
I had a theory. I think I think Chili thinks she's being attacked by a ghost.
Right.
Because when she's running away from Jason later, she runs toward the door, and it's all blustery now. This is the windstorm has started, and the door blows open, and she screams and runs away from the open door outside to freedom and runs into Jason and gets impaled on a red hot poker.
You're right, yeah.
So I guess she thought it was a ghost.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, she's just so fucking high. She's
way too high for this experience. And Chuck gets electrocuted too. That sucks.
It sucks.
Oh, we'll get to that. Never mind.
Yeah, Abel, the road maniac.
The road maniac.
I must be in heaven, he says, looking at young people, and then he shows them the eyeball he has. I love Abel. I love his life.
Well, it was specifically he was looking up at the hot women. Is why he said I must be in heaven. Yeah, he's wonderful. Where'd he get the eyeball, Dave? Where'd the eyeball come from? What was he doing?
I don't know. This is one of the patterns where there needs to be a guy to warn them. They'd have this where they're like, there needs to be a you're all doomed guy, and they have to be weird. And Abel is the guy. He's living his best life. He survives, right?
Yeah, we never see him again. I mean, we don't see him again. I assume he probably gets run over at some point because he's just sleeping in the middle of a highway.
I like to imagine he's the mayor, and he's very successful.
Oh, he could be, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's what can be said about Abel. He has eyeballs, and he's sleeping in the road. He's got it all figured out.
He seems to be talking to no one. I suspect he might be a time traveler. That would explain why he's just in the middle of the street.
That would make the most. It would make the most sense.
I don't know who he's talking to after the kids run away in fear because he keeps preaching directly to the camera long after the teens and their 41-year-old stoner flee the scene.
Right. It's like he knows we're there, which is creepy.
Yeah. That's his time. He can see through time. There's a lot we don't know about the crazy hillbilly time traveler sleeping in the road, who I'm told is named Abel. I don't know where you got that information from.
I looked it up. Yeah, his name is Abel. Yeah, you wouldn't know from watching the movie. Then we have the bikers, Ellie, Fox, Loco.
And Loco. I love the bikers, Dave.
Store bullies. They're just bullying people in a store, and then they get mad that he knocks over the bikes, so they're like, we got to even the score, exact quote, by burning down their barn. And then I love that Loco is like, no one's going to get hurt, right? And it's like, what are your priorities?
Well, here, I have a lot of theories about these bikers. First of all, they're a gang of 3, which is incredible. They're hanging out in the middle of the woods in New Jersey, the backwoods, bullying random people in a store that gets maybe 15 customers a week. They're all wearing turquoise jewelry. I don't think they're an actual biker gang. I think they're just 3 people who got together and said they're a gang.
Yes, and they feel like a biker game in like Saved by the Bell.
Right. They're like a biker gang in training, or like
they're
the
like
kids
an after school special gang that offers kids weed. Like they're pushing weed and cigarettes on children. Like they're that kind of.
It's the kids. It's the kids who started a gang, but they weren't really tough enough to be in a gang.
Yeah.
So their gang is just kind of like they just kind of hang out at 7-Eleven.
None of them are named what they say they're named. I guarantee that. No, they're not. No, nobody calls that guy Loco but himself and his other 2 friends.
No, he works at CompUSA.
Yes. Yeah, that's what it feels like. Is they're all kind of just posers, right? And they've taken it too far, and they get murdered for it.
They sure do.
Yeah. Yeah, they're not. They're the opposite of maniacs in a weird way. Like they're just posers. They're like they feel desperate.
I like that also when Fox goes inside the barn, it's like a long sequence of her just snooping around and just being dazzled by everything. Like she's genuinely really interested in all of the old farm junk she finds.
I don't think she's ever been in a barn before.
She doesn't. Yeah, it really does. She's like looking at cobwebbed old farm equipment like it's magic. Like she's really having a transformative experience in this barn.
And here's the thing. I don't think she's been in a city either. I think they're suburban. I think they've been in suburbs and they went to the country because the suburb people bullied them. Like I feel like they had to go somewhere else to bully people, and this is where they found. We never see him, but the dad who keeps buying hay but never a horse.
I love Chris's invisible dad.
Yeah.
Like, he might low-key be the most insane person in the movie.
He might be.
What man... Look, we learned from Rick in the beginning of the movie when they get to the cabin, like Rick is loading all of this huge new bales of hay into the barn, and it's like, oh, my old man keeps threatening to buy a horse and making plans, but every year he buys all the hay and never the horse. So he's just loading all this hay into the barn. So every year...
So it rots.
Yeah, this old maniac is buying all this hay and is just never buying a horse. So what man spends thousands of dollars on hay and also the wages to hire this guy to load the hay into the barn and like take care of the property? Because it seems like Rick is some sort of caretaker and he never buys a horse. Like what is...
like you would have bought the horse and then secured the hay, right? Like that's how that goes. And to the point where you hire someone to take care of it. Like that is commitment to a horse to the point that you should have already bought it.
Yeah. Like why wasn't his, like if I was his wife, I'd be freaking out because he's pissing away their retirement. And then that made me realize, oh, he probably murdered his wife years ago. And it's just buying this hay. She's hidden somewhere on the property.
She's under the hay that he's stacking on her.
There's something incredible that happens when Shelly goes into the barn. So Shelly walks in there. He gets jump scared by a mummified cow's head that's hanging from a noose. It just drops into the frame beside him. Like, and it's like this old mummified cow's head. It's dusty and it's covered in cobwebs. And the rope is almost disintegrated. And it does disintegrate when he swats it and it falls to the floor. So my point is Jason did not put that there. That has been there for years.
Yes.
So Chris's dad put that. He hung a severed cow's head in his barn years ago.
Because I imagine he's at home in the city reading cowboy magazines, right? Just dreaming. He's just going through the longest midlife crisis about this shit.
He watches City Slickers every year on his birthday.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. He is a tragedy, this unseen dad. And speaking of tragedies, that brings us to, of course, Shelly.
Oh my gosh.
Shelly. He brought multiple masks to this.
He brought a crate. Like he bought a whole box.
He says, I'm not an asshole, I'm an actor. Which is weird because he never seems to actually want to be an actor.
Like, right, yeah, I didn't understand that. Like, he's not like doing scenes. He's not like leaping out of closets and reciting Shakespeare. He's leaping out of closets with axes in his head.
Right. If he was like, I want to be Gallagher or a comedian, I would make more sense.
Yeah,
but he's like, I want to be an actor. And it's like, this isn't what an actor does. This is just weird edgelord.
Acting is leaping out of closets with horror makeup on your face.
He says, would you be yourself if you looked like this? And he's not like bad looking. It's just like, Shelly, it's your personality. I hate to say this. Like, it really
I don't hate to say this. I think this movie very intentionally wrote Shelly the way that they do.
Oh, yeah.
Because Shelly is like such a proto-incel. And they seem to be aware of it because everybody on the trip is just incredibly nice to him. They always try to include him. Well, not incredibly nice, but Vera is very nice and patient with him.
Yeah.
Nobody is mean to Shelly in this movie.
No, when Vera is just like, I'm not into you, she leaves and he's like, bitch. And it's like, she was not a bitch at all to you.
She's one of the nicest people. And like, nobody's mean to him. He has all of his stuff like, well, I'm not... they're all going skinny dipping and I'm not skinny enough. Nobody said that to you. Like,
right,
and like later, yeah, he's talking to Vera and he's like, well, I have to do these pranks. She's like, you don't need to do this stuff. This is terrible. It's annoying and obnoxious when you do this. And he's like, well, it's the only way I can get people to notice me. I'm just a big nothing otherwise. And she's like, I never said that to you.
He's such an edgelord where it's his identity. They also say leave him alone. He doesn't know any better, and also like he doesn't know what happened when he later does a prank. And it's like he's not like a dog. Like he's not a child. You're talking about him like he doesn't understand what's happening around him. Well, it's so weird.
He doesn't know what happened. Is they're referring to Chris? He doesn't know about Chris's woods maniac brush with a woods maniac.
That's fair, I guess.
But like, yeah, the he doesn't know any better is real. Like they're treating him like they do kind of treat him like a kid brother they have to babysit. But that's how he's behaving. He's constantly doing these pranks. But my point is nobody is mean to Shelly but Shelly, and Shelly is mean to everyone else. Like,
yeah, he's an asshole.
He's awful, and it has to be intentional. There's no way you could write this because if this character was written in like the 1982 version of he's a nice guy, if they would just look past the fact that he was a nerd, like he would have wound up at least kissing Vera, or they would have wound up getting together. It would have been more like Revenge of the Nerds, which came out around the same time. Would have been embarrassing. They would have probably been like an embarrassing date rape scene or something, and it would have been treated like isn't it? Yeah. Is it? But the movie doesn't do that. I just pointed that out.
Fuck Shelly.
Right. Like the movie very clearly understands that. No. Like this guy is awful.
And it's this thing where he creates this victimization of himself so that he can lash out at other people.
Yes.
And it's just like it's like
I think everybody's
it's the 30 Rock joke.
Person. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, where she thinks she was bullied, and then in the flashback she realized she was the bully. Yeah. Like that's what it is. He's just a bully, and he's like, "Woe is Shelly," and it's like, "No, fuck you, Shelly, man. Like you're just an asshole."
Yeah.
To the point that when he gets his throat cut, people assume it's a prank, and I love that about it. Yep. It also takes him like 30 minutes to die.
He hangs in
there. Yeah, Jason has his mask, and then like a lot of time passes, and then Shelly shows up like struggling, and it's like, you're not dead yet, Shelly? Just die, man. Like, Jesus. Which is all to say, Shelly isn't... I guess he's the second best monster, but not in a fun way.
He's just, I mean, he is a monster in a fun way because he's totally insane, right? He brought a magician's trunk full of pranks to this getaway vacation with a bunch of his adult friends. Like, we're all adults, man.
Yeah,
like,
come on, dude.
He has a full scuba suit, a spear gun, multiple masks, like you said.
Suit. Yeah, he grabs her from the lake because he brought a scuba suit.
A scuba suit with a spear gun. Why did he bring a spear gun?
It feels like he's going to kill them.
Yeah.
Like it really feels like he's going to kill them.
Right. If Jason hadn't shown up, Shelly would have gassed himself up over the next couple of nights and murdered everybody.
Yeah, it really feels that way.
And he would have convinced himself it was because they were so mean to him. He had no other choice.
Exactly.
And they're doing nothing but being kind to him and trying to include him.
He's such a prick.
He really is.
Yeah, I hate Shelly.
Oh, he sucks.
Box of tricks.
Brought a fucking box of magic tricks.
What a fucking amazing asshole.
I know. He's incredible. He's one of the greatest characters in the franchise.
Yeah, ever invented for film.
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah.
What a hero.
Should we go through the deaths?
Yeah, we should.
All right. It's time to rank all the deaths and figure out what is the winner of this one. There's some close ones here.
This is going to be tough, I think.
Yeah, Harold was stabbed with a butcher's knife in the chest.
Yeah.
His hot wife stabbed with a knitting needle through a door or a window.
In the back of the head, yeah.
Yep.
Through a window.
Fox is stabbed off camera. She's pinned to the wall with a pitchfork. Loco also stabbed with a pitchfork. Ali is beaten to death with a club, but then he shows back up and then he's immediately murdered.
There's something I wanted to talk about there. that I missed when we got to that scene with Jason. Jason must be really... It's because he's on tilt. Because he kills Ollie immediately and easily, and then just continues to hack at him for a very long time, and that's how Chris
he's
is able
to...
Yeah. Well,
dead.
He's taken the last 10 minutes out on Ollie is what he's doing.
He really is.
But like, so he does... He's hacking at... That's what distracts him. It's not that he's fighting with Ollie. It's that he's hacking at Ollie's bodies for long enough that Chris is able to come and put an axe into his head.
He's embarrassed. He's like, I thought I killed you.
I counted...
Like, Ollie takes so much punishment.
He does. I counted 9 hacks.
Damn.
Like, it's off. Most of them are off screen, but you can still hear them as the camera's on Chris and she's like slowly getting up and getting the axe and sneaking up on Jason, and you can still hear these thunks. It's very funny.
Yeah, he's so frustrated.
Yeah, anyway.
Shelly killed off camera/throat, takes forever to die. Vera shot in the eye with a spear gun, right in the eye.
Directly.
Amazing shot.
Into the eye.
Yeah. Andy doing a handstand and cut through the middle of his body. Mm-hmm. Pretty fucking great. Debbie stabbed through the chest while pregnant. She gets baconed. She gets Kevin Bacon.
She really does. She gets Kevin Baconed.
Chuck thrown into a fuse box and electrocuted.
Yep. Just trying to make some popcorn. That's all he did. That's all he did this weekend was he got just interstellarly high and then tried to make some popcorn and got electrocuted.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all he does.
Chili gets stabbed, run right through with a fire poker.
Yeah, that's pretty gnarly.
Yeah. And then Rick, skull crushed to the point that his eye pops out and then thrown through a window.
He heaps so much punishment onto Rick. It's so funny.
Yeah, he really does.
Pops his little eye out.
This is genuinely hard. Because when I saw the spear gun, I was like, there's no beating that, right?
Oh,
but
there's
then
plenty
the
of stiff competition.
handstand's funny. What are you thinking?
My vote is the handstand, honestly. He gets split in half through his dick. And then Jason puts both halves of him up in the ceiling.
So that's so hard. You know what? I think I have to agree with you, and here's why. Because I think
the eye pop though is classic. That's pretty classic. I know,
and the eye pop is classic, and he's thrown through a window. Thing about the handstand that makes it funny is that Andy helps his death, meaning that it requires Andy to do a handstand. Like when is Jason ever going to get to kill someone that way again? Like they are doing a handstand.
Yeah, he doesn't get to. That never comes up again.
It's the most unique death in this because it requires participation from the victim. But it also feels like a disservice to gloss over Skull Crushed or the fucking the spear gun. Because also, when is he ever going to hit someone with a spear gun?
It is pretty spectacular. It's a hell of a shot. It's a hell of a shot, Jason. He should be in the Olympics. He's on the Olympics sharpshooting team or something.
It's incredible what he does.
Well, we know he did archery as a kid.
This is hard.
It's hard, but I'm still voting for split down the middle, I think. Fuck the eye pop. The eye pop is tough. I'm going to give it to split down the middle.
All right, so Andy, split down middle, handstand. Okay, I wrote it down. And I feel okay with this.
Same.
It might not win the final one, but it's a pretty fucking good kill. So, yeah.
Good work, Andy. Way to do. Yeah. Way to take one for the team.
If you're playing at home, write it down.
Yeah.
And that is Friday the 13th, Part 3 on this Friday the 13th of October.
Yeah.
We did it.
Part 2023.
Hell yeah.
We did
big old thank you to Chris Shanovich.
Big sloppy wet thank you to Chris Shanovich.
Yeah, you are our hero. Mm-hmm. Thank you all for listening.
You are our crazy time traveling hillbilly sleeping in the road.
You really are.
A hero.
And listen, this was through our Patreon, patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed, GAMEFULLY, unemployed. You go on there. You can also get us to record a podcast if you wish. But also just for $5 a month, you get access to a bunch of exclusive podcasts like Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Fox Mulder is a Maniac, Star Trek The Next Futurama, Spiel Boys. We watch movies every Friday night. That includes every Friday the 13th. which we have watched and
We have.
will watch again.
Oh, yeah. We're probably
Yeah.
watching one of them tonight. Who knows? We also have a store. Head over to gamefullyunemployed.com where you can find a link to our Teespring store where we have all kinds of cool original artwork and designs you can get on t-shirts, mugs, stickers, posters, all sorts of things. So slap your little mask hole peeking peepers onto that.
Absolutely.
Sweet.
And, be good.
Yeah.
Don't be bad.
Or not. I don't care. Live your life.
Yeah. God, I don't.
WWJD, what would Jason do?
Yes. And we know he'd pop someone's eye out. Mm-hmm. They had it coming. All right.
Bye.
Bye.